Imagine the most magnificent kingdom of all, where the king's children vie for the coveted throne. Today, we delve into a tragic biblical tale of violence, betrayal, and sorrow, showcasing how the twisted desires of David's sons lead them to commit horrific acts. Before we explore this dark narrative, please take a moment to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and activate the notification bell to stay updated on our latest content. Your support means the world to us and only takes a second. The story of Tamar and her brother Amnon stands out as one of the most dramatic and heartbreaking accounts in the Old Testament, specifically within the second book of Samuel. This tale illustrates how unchecked passion and the lack of moral boundaries can result in devastating consequences. Amnon, King David's son, harbored an unhealthy obsession for his half-sister Tamar, renowned for her beauty throughout the kingdom. Overwhelmed by his desire, Amnon concocted a sinister plan to fulfill his urges. One day, feigning illness, Amnon requested that Tamar come to care for him. When she arrived, he took advantage of the situation and attempted to assault her. Tamar fought back fiercely, pleading with Amnon not to harm her, but he was blinded by his selfish desires and violated her, leaving a deep and irreparable scar on her life. The biblical account vividly portrays Tamar's anguish as she grappled with the emotional and physical aftermath of this horrific act. In the wake of the assault, Amnon's feelings towards Tamar shifted to contempt, and he coldly ordered her to leave. Stripped of her dignity and devastated, Tamar dressed in mourning clothes and sought refuge with her brother Absalom, who was enraged by the injustice that had befallen her. Once a young woman full of promise, Tamar now found herself engulfed in a sea of pain and humiliation. This tragedy didn't just affect her, it reverberated throughout her family and community, altering their dynamics forever. As news of the assault spread, the people of Israel began to view Tamar through a different lens, and King David, upon learning of the incident, became furious, but ultimately took no action against Amnon. This inaction highlighted David's inability to administer justice within his own household, leaving Tamar as a silent victim and a symbol of suffering and injustice. When the news of Tamar's tragic fate reached Absalom, David's second son, a storm of fury ignited within him. Filled with rage and sorrow over the injustices his sister had suffered, Absalom was further incensed by their father's lack of action. The absence of justice stoked his desire for revenge, and he resolved to avenge Tamar. Absalom, known for his striking beauty, devised a meticulous plan to confront Amnon. 2 years after the assault, he organized a feast at Baal Hazor, inviting all of David's sons, including Amnon. Under the guise of celebration, Absalom concealed his true intentions. As the festivities unfolded, he ordered his servants to kill Amnon when he was least expecting it. Amnon's murder was the culmination of Absalom's quest for vengeance, but it came at a grave cost. Following the murder, Absalom fled to the city of Geshur, leaving behind a kingdom in turmoil. This tragedy shattered the unity of David's family and created a deep rift between David and his surviving sons. David's heartbreak over the loss of Amnon was complicated by his grief for Tamar, who was forever altered by the violence she endured. Later, Joab, recognizing David's internal conflict, devised a plan to help the king reconcile with Absalom. He brought a wise woman from Tekoa to deliver a parable about a family torn apart by the death of a son. This story touched David's heart and led him to reconsider his stance on Absalom. Eventually, David instructed Joab to bring Absalom back to Jerusalem, but refused to see him personally, reflecting the deep emotional wounds within the royal family. Once back in Jerusalem, Absalom's ambition for power became evident. His charm and charisma drew the people to him, and he positioned himself at the city gates, winning their support by questioning David's leadership and promising a more compassionate rule. Over time, Absalom's influence grew, and he exploited the discontent among the people, creating further division within the kingdom. Driven by a complex mix of grief and a thirst for justice, Absalom ultimately declared himself king in Hebron, challenging his father's authority. This act of rebellion thrust the nation into civil war, pitting brother against brother in a conflict fueled by the unresolved tragedies of their family history. The battle reached its peak in the forest of Ephraim, where David's forces clashed with Absalom's troops. During this chaotic confrontation, Absalom's fate took a tragic turn. Caught by his long hair in an oak tree while fleeing, he became vulnerable to attack. Despite David's orders to spare his son's life, Joab disregarded these instructions and killed Absalom. The news of his death plunged David into profound grief, leading him to lament over the loss of his son, even one who had rebelled against him. David's sorrowful cries resonated through the ages. "My son Absalom, my son Absalom, would I had died instead of you." This poignant expression of a father's heartache highlights the deep familial rifts and the consequences of unbridled desires and moral failures. The tragic tale of David's sons serves as a stark reminder of the complexities of human choices. From Tamar's horrific violation to the cycle of vengeance and sorrow, these events illustrate how the pursuit of power and unchecked passions can lead to devastating outcomes. Yet, even amid these dark narratives, the Bible offers lessons on repentance, forgiveness, and the possibility of redemption. Thank you for joining us for today's video. If you've made it this far, 2 similar videos will appear on your screen. Just click to watch more. Thank you, and may God be with you.